the combination of vertical solar panels and agricultural use. This will be our next steps with farmers in the region. Well, the conclusion on solar energy is everybody is asked to do something and everybody can do something. Solar energy is a contribution to protect climate, and it's a good basis for economic development, just for everyone. It's also a good basis for individual electric mobility. Solar energy can be combined with agriculture and farming. Solar energy could be combined with protected nature areas. And solar energy could be a contribution for biodiversity, local and on Earth especially. At last, solar energy is a contribution to sustainable development. Solar energy and the way it is used fulfills several United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So I hope you have got a revealing insight in our biosphere reserve and in some of our projects to protect climate by renewable energies. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for your presentation, Doctor.
Korean and German cases were introduced, and we are going to move to Spain. Spain Menorca map expert Eduardo Escola Capdevila will deliver presentation under the theme of Menorca 2030 Roadmap to Decarbonization. Whenever you are ready, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you very well. Thank you.
Okay, then I will try to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it very well. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. Then, first of all, thank you to the organization, to this invitation to participate in this seminar. Well, I'm talking from Menorca. We are an island from Spain. We are a biosphere reserve also, as Jeju is. And I will try to share with you a roadmap for our decarbonization. Well, we'll see what we are trying to do. First of all, we would like to share with you the principles of our transition. We need to, our energy transition, sorry. First of all, we need supply security, because if we don't have enough energy for everybody, it doesn't work. We need also social participation. This transition must be economic, has to have economic viability, also environmental sustainability and landscape integration. In which fields can we work? We, as an island, we don't have enough power to work in all the fields of the energy system. And we center in those in which we can work. Those are the electric system, the households, the services sector, and the land transport. Coming from those principles, we want to arrive to achieve many objectives that are those you can see here. To reduce our emissions in 2030, what we want to do is to get in the electric demand, we want to cover it an 85% with renewables. This comes from the 4 cells you can see below. Most of all is PV plants and wind farms. Also self-consumptions in households and in the industry. Battery storage, here we can see there's an important part of the electric vehicle. We will see it further. And also, and the most important thing, we have to save energy. We say that the best energy is the one we don't need. then if we can save, we have a big part of the road made. A part of the electric demand, we work on the land transport. We want to reduce 50% of the fossil fuel consumption. Also, in thermal usage, we want to reduce at 30%, and then in the primary sector, that it's almost all is agriculture, we want to reduce at 10% of the diesel consumption. Which are the proposals of our transition agenda? First of all, and the thing that everybody knows about it and everybody can see it, is the renewable generation. After that, we need storage and support. The support comes from, we have a thermal plant at this moment that is giving us almost all the energy we use, and we need this plant just for support when everything is working with renewables. We have to work on land mobility, also in efficiency and demand response, and to make it all work together, we need the smart grids, also the smart markets. And the last thing is we have to build a whole island energy community. Let's start with the renewable generation. All I will show you is talking about the 2030 scenario that you can see here. We need all those amounts of generation, and with our calculation and with our capability of having each kind of generation, our numbers go to have 261 megawatts of PV plants, 16.5 wind farms. We have the most, it's not the most important in amount, but maybe it's the most important on making the people part of the system, is the renewables in urban environment. That means, most of all, as we saw in the previous presentation, solar panels on the house roofs. Here we estimate to have 30 megawatt in 2030, but it's going faster than a lot of people is making these facilities in their houses, and then maybe if we increase this number, we can go low with the PV plants on the floor, on the ground floor. We are also open to other technologies. This is a roadmap. It's not like a Bible that we cannot move it, we cannot change anything. And if during this period there's some new technology that can help us to achieve our objectives, we are open to that. Then, as biogas, wave energy, or something new that we still don't know. Also, combined with this, we need static batteries, about 400 megawatt hour capacity. Now we are going to the another field of action, that's the land mobility. We want to reduce 50% the fossil fuel consumption on 2030. In Menorca, we have a lot of private vehicles. We are about 90,000 inhabitants, and we have 50,000 private vehicles. It's a lot, it's too much. Then we have to change our mobility system. The most important thing is to increase the collective public transport and get intermodal transport to arrive to the bus stations, for example. But another part with the private car, and you saw on the left side of the slide, the private vehicle, the taxi and rental. We are a very touristic island, and there's a lot of touristic rental. And the last mile transport must convert the vehicles from diesel or gasoline to electric vehicles, reduce them and electrify them. Another thing that we need from the electric vehicle is to use them as batteries to support the renewable generation. We had, in the previous slide, we were talking about 400 megawatt hour of static batteries, but we also need electric cars connected to the charging grid as V2G. Then, so we can use the energy stored in their batteries to give some services to the grid. It's very important for us, and if we don't achieve this objective, we will have to increase the static batteries, and it's not the optimal way to work. Another thing we have to work in is the efficiency and demand response. This is as I said at the beginning, we have to save energy. We have not very efficient systems at this moment, and we have to work on that. The household are at this moment the 17% of the final energy consumption. Then we have to work in households, or as you see, all the rounds you see here is the sector where we have to work. In summary, what we have to do is to reduce energy consumption in all sectors. I go to the next slide, then here we can see the things on we have to work in each sector. In household, we have to work on PV self-consumption, energy rehabilitation. It's a very, very important thing. The buildings have a very bad isolation in Menorca usually, and we are working on programs to allow people to get easy funding for energy rehabilitation of their households. In the households also, there's a lot of things that can be integrated in them, as is the electric vehicle, changing the heating systems by biomass maybe sometimes, and improving their efficiency. In the services sector, this is a quite different, is more complicated, because in this sector we joined the tourism sector. That's very stational. We have a very high peak of visitors in summer. Our population gets 2 or 3 times the winter population. And as I said, in services, we have tourism, we have public services, we have public lighting, and the water cycle management. We have to improve the efficiency of these sectors, and each one has its own particularities that make them different one of each other. Industry is not very important in consumption in Menorca, but without not very difficult measures, they can be improved, and then their costs go low, and it's very interesting for the industry. Then it's almost the same, but well, I can read it. It's renewable generation, like self-consumption. PPA, it's power purchasement agreement, that they can. You have some industries that have a very big roof, and they don't have so much consumption, so they can sell the energy they can generate in the roofs to the neighbors. Well, it's almost. I will not read the next lines, because it's almost the same than the previous. In the primary sector, we have a big job with renewal of machinery. Then the machines they use are almost quite old, and the thermal users now they are using always diesel. Then we have to change it to biomass. Smart grids. The smart grids are very important, so we can make the investments in the grids lower than if we don't have the systems. and they make possible to combine all the things we need: the distributed energy generation. That is not. We want to change from a model that we have a big thermal plant that produces all the energy of the island and arrive at the end of the consumer. Then at this moment, what we want to do is to create not very big PV plants which are distributed in all the territory, and they can be in the middle of the grid. Then to make everything work together and make the supply a secure thing, we need the grid to be so smart to make it work. Inside this smart grid is, of course, the electric vehicle, as I said before, to be used with B2G systems to give services to the grid. Smart markets is a very, very, very big field to work, but what we need is the people to come. Now they are consumers. We want to make them prosumers, that they can give also services to the grid and sell the energy they don't use. And the energy community. It's also we want to make the people be part of the energy community, then so they can make economic transactions between them, not only with the DSO or the TSO, also between them. We have here, I'm quite finishing, the top 10 measures of the Menorca strategy. First of all is we have a wind farm next to a waste plant, and we want to use the waste plant to repower the wind farm and also install the PV plant. Storage with batteries, self-consumption in buildings, PV plants in public parkings, in parking lots. We are covering them with PV panels so that we have shadow for the cars, and at the same time we produce energy. The number 6 is the energy efficiency in buildings. It was the problem I said. We have a project for making the funding easier for the families to get to improve the isolation of their buildings. Electric mobility, smart grids, local energy markets, and Menorca 2030 office. We have it, it's working yet, and it's a big thing where it's an office where the people can go there and ask for the improvements they can do by themselves, maybe about self-consumption, about buying an electric car, or anything they need regarding to energy. They can come there and ask us how to do it. Well, this is the numbers we want to share, we want to achieve. Meanwhile, we are working on the energy transition. I will not read everything; it's quite quite hard. And well, this is why we are doing all of this. Is just the reduction of the CO2 emissions. We have a number in 1990. We have our base year for our calculations in 2013, and as you can see, we want to reduce it a lot about 2030. We hope we can arrive at that. And now, well, everything. That's all I wanted to explain to you, and I hope it was interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. 오늘 이제 마지막 사례 발표로
And as the last use case will be delivered, we have so far listened to cases of Spain, Germany, and Korea. And last but not least, we are going to talk about Jeju-do's cases where this event is being held.
기후변화
Mr. Oh Kyung-sop, the head of the energy policy team of self-governing province of Jeju, will be making the presentation. Please welcome him with a big hand.
안녕하십니까.
Good evening. I'm Oh Kyung-sop from Jeju Special Governing Province. It's a great honor for me to talk about carbon-free island, which is part of the energy transition policy of Jeju. CFI 2030 background. Jeju Island has clean natural environment, and it is regarded as one of the most beautiful islands in the world, with UNESCO designated biosphere reserve, natural heritage, and global geological park. But we get 23% of our energy from the land. But Jeju Island has high potential for wind power generation, and we are the only special governing province in Jeju Island, in the Republic of Korea. Therefore, Jeju Island is keenly interested in promoting energy autonomy by utilizing our outstanding wind resources. So let me talk about our vision implementation. Jeju Province has announced carbon-free island vision, and we are taking the lead in implementing carbon neutrality and energy transition. We started carbon-free island plan in 2012, and we have continuously worked on this plan. Our goal is to make carbon-free island by 2030, and it is one of the flagship carbon neutrality policy of Jeju's self-governing province, and we have implemented the Jeju Energy Major Transition Roadmap to make the plan for carbon-free island Jeju in more detail. CFI 2030 core values and policy goals. In CFI 2030, we are going to include the 3 areas of power generation, transportation, and consumption. And our goal is to develop a fully autonomous city in terms of energy. Under the vision of carbon-free island, we are trying to promote harmony with the natural environment, build clean and stable energy supply structure, and to promote growth of ecological innovation. Carbon-free island is carbon-free is the most important mission of our generation, and 2030 CFI is a mid and long-term plan for Jeju Island to utilize the renewable energy that is easily available in Jeju to achieve greenhouse gas emission reduction and an energy autonomy. To achieve CFI 2030 vision, we are going to introduce the renewable energy power generation additional capacity of 4,000 MWh to replace 100% of our demand and to transition 75% of our cars into eco-mobility. And we are also going to reduce our energy consumption by 23.4% and also promote the growth of convergence industries with renewable energy. So let me talk about our major milestones. As part of carbon-free island policy, we have achieved 19.13% of renewable energy share, which is the largest share in Korea, and 8.3% of our vehicle fleet is electric vehicles. And in developing the source for renewable energy in order to minimize environmental degradation, promote maximum acceptance and profit for our residents, we are carrying out public-led wind power generation investment. This is as of April 27th this year. This is the supply and demand of renewable energy produced in Jeju Island, which accounts for 51% of energy demand in Jeju. And now let us talk about the Green Hydrogen Global Hub Development Plan. We announced the plan in September last year, and we have been building the ecosystem for green hydrogen industry. We are working with key hydrogen companies of Korea to carry out demonstration projects for green hydrogen production, and we are planning to demonstrate 12.5 megawatts, which is the largest in Asia. To promote the use of hydrogen, we are going to build the distribution system. We are going to launch the green hydrogen charging system in Hamdok, which is the first of its kind in Korea. Green hydrogen can be applied in various areas of our daily lives and industries. We can introduce public buses, trams, cleaning buses, shipping, and we are going to introduce more hydrogen-based mobility. Let me talk about our international cooperation. In 2021, Jeju has received the Outstanding Partnership Award from P4G, and to achieve 2050 carbon neutrality, we are working very hard with our international partners. Jeju Island is working hard to enhance partnership for energy transition and carbon neutrality, including renewable energy and eco-mobility. To achieve higher level of global cooperation, we are going to participate in P4G summit meeting to be held in Bogota, Colombia in September, and we are planning a program to achieve alliance with environment-friendly carbon cities. We'll continue to achieve and expand our partnership for clean cities in waste management and other public sanitary areas. Thank you very much for your attention.
네, 발표 감사드립니다.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And we're going to rearrange the stage for the upcoming panel discussion.
우선 본 패널 토론
The session will be moderated by Secretary General Mr. Taeyeon Chung of Island and Shore Biosphere Reserve Preservation Global Network, and President Moon-Hon Park of Jeju Green Island Development Consultative Body, and President Chan-won Lee of Gyeongnam Province Energy Transition Network will join us at the same time. Speakers will join us for the discussion session, and those who joining us online will also join us for the panel discussion. So I'd like to ask the moderator, speakers, and all the panelists to come up to the stage for the panel discussion.
그러면 이렇게
Then why don't we do this discussion like this separately? Are you going to have discussion? Are we going to have discussions only with two new panelists or with all the speakers? Okay, with speakers. Please come up to the stage. I'd like to ask the speaker to come up to the stage.
네, 그럼
Okay, then
정재현 교수님께 넘기도록 하겠습니다.
I'd like to pass over the microphone to Professor and Director General Chung. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm moderator Taeyeon Chung. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve as the moderator for this session. It is my great honor, and I'm so delighted to serve as the moderator. So I looked at the timetable, and we are supposed to have 30-minute discussion. Indeed, we were supposed to end the discussion at 6:10, since we are behind the schedule. How long do we have for? We have 30 minutes? Okay, you can have 30 minutes. If other participants allow, then we are going to have a 30-minute discussion. Okay, then we're going to wrap up the session at 6:40 in Korean time.
언제까지요? 6시 25분.
Okay, then we will have a 15-minute discussion since we need to wrap up the session at 6:25. So we do not have enough time to talk long. Anyway, the importance of this forum must be emphasized again. So this year marks the 10th anniversary of this expo, and if you look at this year's expo, the scope of application and the depth of discussions have been improved if you look at the program overall. In particular, this forum, this very program related to UNESCO, has been garnering a lot of attention, and we need to pay attention to this conference. Because so far we have talked a lot about land and ocean, e-mobility application, and in the concept of land for biosphere reserves, we have had presentation very specific to biosphere reserves. So it will lead to a transition. So we have had 2 keynote speakers and 4 presenters deliver their own presentations. So I guess you have a better understanding of what they said, but allow me to summarize what they said and delivered. So for biosphere reserves, speakers talked a lot about how to respond to climate change and national biosphere reserves, protection areas, and national parks in Korea, so-called specific areas inland. So very special projects were also introduced, as well as their strategies. And practical programs were also introduced by the speaker. This is a brief summary of the presentations we've had. So as a designated panelist, we designated 2 panelists. First, President Moon-won Park of Jeju Green Island Development Consultative Body. Please say hi to the participants and speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Moon-won Park from Jeju Green Island Development Consultative Body. And next, standing President Chan-won Lee of Gyeongnam Energy Transition Network is joining us today. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Then, President Park, please share your thoughts. And please make sure to add some, if you need any comments or questions, please do them. And it's okay to share your thoughts regarding what to improve and what to cover. So please share your opinions and thoughts regarding them. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. First, today we are holding the 10th IEVE, and the most important, meaningful element is that the first electric shipbuilding and shipping forum was held. So islanders are focusing on ships because we are living in a fishing village, so we have a lot of expectations toward electric ships and vessels. And first of all, I'd like to thank Chairman Kim for your commitment and efforts in making this get-together possible. CFI 2030 was announced in 2012, and this year marks the 11th anniversary of that declaration. And Jeju Energy Department team manager delivered a speech. Everything seems good and sounds good. Policies. When it comes to policies, we need to think about who we are going to work with. And we need to work with residents. Policies are policies, but residents are residents. This is not the case. With residents, we need to carry out policies and implement. This is what we need the most. And in a local community, there are so many institutions and organizations, youth community and senior communities, local municipalities communities, and women's communities. They have a meeting every month, and every time we have a meeting, we talk about basic policies for CFI, and we need to talk about how to implement those policies by residents, and we have emphasized how to practice such policies. So my wish is that we need to work with residents so that we can more effectively implement our policies. This is my opinion. Thank you very much.
감사합니다.
Thank you. As you might have heard, the government policy provides the basic guideline, but policies alone are not enough, and the stakeholders and community members must participate, and all the members of the community must form some kind of social consensus. Without the social consensus, the public policies would not be effective enough. So, Professor Lee, can you go next? I would like to thank all the speakers for their wonderful presentations today. When I looked at some foreign cases, I came up with several questions. In Korea, there is the National Park Management Corporation, and I know they're deeply committed to preserving our natural parks. I heard that there are 665 passengers cars, and by 2026, our goal is to replace 129 of those cars into EVs. And buses, I don't think the progress is catching up with the passenger cars. As I was listening to the presentations today, I became hopeful that we would have more eco-friendly mobility around our national parks. And these eco-friendly cars or EVs need to be charged. In Korea, renewable energy portion is too small. It's only 8% for now. I heard that it's 19% for Jeju Island, which is really exceptional. And national parks. We have great national parks around the country, and if we can charge our EVs with renewable energy sourced power, that would make it really great. And I was wondering whether you have such a plan to go ahead with, because when we heard the German case, MAB, it was really beautiful. And they are trying to promote the renewable energy power generation, and Spain is also doing the similar thing. Dr. Kim also shared some specific ways to calculate various numbers for renewable energy. If we can have more EVs, we are going to reduce the carbon emission, and we can also reduce human toxicity, carbon footprint. Then if we can accelerate our transition to EVs, and if the EVs can be charged with renewable energy, that would be really great, but that obviously is not the direction that we are headed for. So compared to foreign cases, we definitely have a room for improvement, which deserves more discussion. And in Jeju, I've had the chance to browse through this booklet by Taekyung Engineering Company. I'm not saying this because the CEO of the company is here, but when we first started Green Forum, the gathering of people who love Kapado, Taekyung Engineering is a company that specializes in ESS, smart grid, and VTG connection with the grid. So Taekyung Engineering has the technology to do that, even though it's not a big company. We need to push ahead in that technological direction, and they need to be applied more aggressively in the real applications, but that is not happening. We need to speed up in this area. When we heard the presenters from Spain and Germany speak, I would like to ask them if you have any advice for us at this point in time. So I don't think I've spent that much time. You have asked 2 questions.
우리 오 과장님하고
And Dr. Oh and Dr. Kim, please answer the question. First, Dr. Oh, by 2030, we are going to replace 665-hour vehicles with eco-friendly vehicles like EVs. But most of our vehicles are passenger cars. They are used for our work and our activities. And we have also fire suppression vehicles and other vehicles for working activities. And so far, we replaced 129 passenger cars with EVs. And hybrid vehicles and fuel cell vehicles have replaced 129, but only 1 hydrogen fuel cell vehicles because of charging stations. In Anmyeondo Island, there is 1 hydrogen fueling station, but it is 100 kilometers away from our headquarters, so that's why we are going to replace all the vehicles with EVs. And among 665 vehicles, fire suppression or water spring vehicles, in 10 years, I believe electric vehicles of fire suppression vehicles will be developed going forward. So we are going to overall replace almost all vehicles. And we are targeting to replace 117 electric buses, but so far we have replaced only 7. And those 117 buses also include buses operated by local municipalities. So we have had some difficulties working with local communities. So that's why we first replaced 7 buses with electric buses for ecological tourism or some for traffic congestions as shuttle buses, so that in the peak season in the autumn. So in the longer term, we are going to replace all the buses with EV electric buses, and we are going to get assisted by the municipalities. And Jirisan Mountain, and in particular some parks, are located in an area at a high altitude. So carbon emissions also happen in those mountain areas. So that's why we decided to adopt electric buses, and we are going to operate 2 pilot electric buses. And we have a parking lots at a very high altitude area. In particular, high altitude area are very important areas of national parks. So only electric vehicles can be parked at national parks. So at a high altitude area, only electric vehicles could be able to park. And when it comes to electric charging stations, our vehicles are now being replaced with EVs. So already we have installed at least one or two charging stations in our headquarters. And we are going to install more EV charging facilities in our national parks so that tourists can use them. So renewable energy, photovoltaic, do you have any plan to generate electricity with photovoltaic or renewable energy resources? As I mentioned before, we are now carrying out projects to install photovoltaic panels in public parking spaces. And we are using also geothermal as well as photovoltaic for roof. And just like the Spain's cases, we have issues regarding storage. We can provide electricity in real time only for use. And we have some issues with KEPCO, which is the only utility in the country. We have some legal issues, and that must be improved.
저도 짧게
I'll be very brief. When we drive EVs, we have this vague belief that it's going to be environment friendly. But that got me intrigued on how much heavy metal or CO2 emission can be reduced. I wanted to come up with some accurate and visible results. So I wanted to prove that EVs can be really effective in protecting the environment, to encourage more citizens to get engaged. And in the case of national parks, I'm sure there's a lot that I can do for it. Electric buses and electric vehicles are being introduced these days, and every time we do that, it will reduce the microdust and the CO2 emission. That needs to be calculated and promoted widely. And the benefits of reduction, if the local governments can provide some incentives, like whenever we can reduce CO2 emission or heavy metal, if the local government can give us extra benefits or incentives, I think that will encourage this to be accelerated.
And Professor Lee, you have one more question? Yes, I have a question as well as I'm not sure whether we have a representative from Jeju province or not. So with UNESCO MAB program, we are hosting this very first seminar. And I researched some facts. In 2019, in Menorca of Spain, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right or not. So they expanded the MAB, and also it was covered in Jeju. So in 2019, they expanded this MAB program. So far, about 44% of Jeju Island is biosphere reserves. And I also looked at map focusing on Halla Mountains. And in Jeju, MAB areas were designated. And I'm not sure whether those areas are under well management. And I'm not sure whether in the mid-altitude mountain areas, we can see some new facilities and houses constructed. So I'm not sure MAB programs are well implemented in the province as well. Since we have any MAB experts today, I guess foreign speakers could be able to give some answers to those questions. I'm not sure there's anyone who can give the answer. So allow me to give my opinions. And currently we are joined by Director Kim Yang-bok of UNESCO Korea. Director Kim, are you with us? Okay, we can see him. And could you give the answer to Professor Lee's question? Since I'm not invited as a panelist, maybe you cannot hear me. Okay, you can hear me? Okay. So sorry for such inconveniences. And Professor Lee, regarding your comments, I'm not well positioned to give the answer to your question. So allow me to talk briefly. So Menorca and Jeju, between the two regions, you can see a close cooperation relationship. So Island Biosphere Reserves Network, co-secretariats are the two islands, and so far we have worked together very well. But going forward, carbon-free island and carbon neutrality could be achieved by the two islands. Maybe going forward, I believe the two islands will be able to create further and solidify further cooperation. When it comes to the expansion of bioreserves or MAB program, it is a part of process, not a final result. Of course, there must be some room for improvement. And also, speakers delivered their presentations. And globally, we are a leader, but going forward, we should be able to grow further and develop further going forward. Thank you very much for your comments. Since we are behind the schedule, but if there is any question from the floor, then we are going to take one. Please go ahead, Mr. Ma.
Thank you very much for the excellent presentations overseas as well as at home. My question goes to the Maria Rosa. Today we found that European consumers, especially Scandinavian consumers, buy a lot of electric cars. That ratio is much higher than any other part of the world. Therefore, my question is, I want to know what is the reason behind. Is there a lot of incentives or people's special attention to the climate changes? 그리고 동일한 맥락에서 우리 김준범 교수님한테 한국은 왜 이렇게
In the same context, I have a question to Professor Kim Jun-bum. What is the ratio of EVs in Korea? And is there any countermeasures we can adopt to improve this ratio in Korea?
So Maria Rosa, can you answer from the question?
Yes. So I will talk in name of UNESCO's MAP program. So I can't talk on behalf of a European country. But saying that what we see, of course, is that Nordic countries have been implementing policies to encourage the countries and buyers to choose electric cars. So for example, when we see Scandinavian countries that they have implemented policies such as not paying, for example, the tolls or that you can use, for example, bus lanes so that you go faster. These are things that incentivize someone to buy an electric car. These are politics that has been implemented for over 10 years. So we can see that these changes, they take time. And we're talking about the richest countries in the world, okay? Where people, they do have a better access of education. So they are aware also of climate change issues. So I think it's a very broad situation. We're talking about the most richest countries where you have a good education. In most of the countries, we're talking about small countries with a small population where you can implement changes in a quick way. So these are the countries where we can move fast, but they can be also the example and help other countries to follow their example. Thank you.
저도 조금 간단하게 좀
And allow me to add some comments. When it comes to Norway, because of hydrogen, because of renewable energy resources, electricities are quite low, and many consumers are involved in eco-friendly movement. That's why they buy more EVs. I need to check the precise number, but it's still low, but it's on the rise. First, we have issues regarding infrastructure. And recently, I bought a new car. I thought a lot whether I should buy EV or ICE vehicles, and I chose ICE vehicles because there were some issues regarding charging and other inconveniences that could occur from infrastructure issues. Of course, the way I see and view should change, and going forward, consumers should change the way they view of EVs, then EV sales would be on the rise. So we need to take care of infrastructure issues in most urgent way. Thank you.
And because of time, we would have to wrap up this session now. So we've had the presentations and Q&A. And what kind of conclusion should we draw from this discussion? I have summarized that. This forum is to look for solutions to accelerate the introduction of eco-friendly mobility in the Biosphere Reserve. In this Biosphere Reserve, we've talked about general policies. And we have also talked about what kind of programs would be needed, energy plus EVs, and various great cases were shared. And our discussant has proposed questions and comments. And in conclusion, government policies alone are not enough. We need social consensus from the residents of the community, corporations, and civil societies. And the EVs, the biggest challenge that we have for now is to charge them in a renewable energy. If we have to use the fossil fuel-based power, then EVs are not truly effective. So we have to look for ways to increase the level of charging by renewable energy. And by using EVs, we are achieving various benefits and the infrastructure construction. We need a comprehensive approach that can improve the contribution of EVs for environmental protection. So we need to improve social perception and understanding of the benefits and effectiveness of using EVs. And for Biosphere Reserve, we need to come up with specialized projects. That is the gist of our discussion so far. Thank you very much.
그럼 마지막으로
Last but not least, well, I would like to ask you to return to your seats. And before we conclude, we are going to introduce Director General Ha Kyung-ja of IGIF for closing remarks.
그 의자들은 놔두시고요. 그냥 그 연단만 가운데 갖다 놓으시면 되실 것 같아요. 네, 그건 나중에 치우셔도 괜찮지 않을까요? 네, 그럼 치우시죠. 오늘 날씨도 이제
Thank you very much for coming all the way to here despite the bad weather, and all the speakers joining us online are joining us even in the very early morning in Europe. Once again, thank you very much for joining us early in the morning and taking this opportunity and this occasion. I hope the event could further develop and could be held next year as well. And International Green Island Forum and this event, I hope they could develop a sound relationship going forward too. If possible, could you please move it up to the stage? Thank you very much. Then, with a warm round of applause, we'd like to welcome her to the stage, Chairperson of International Green Island Forum. Thank you very much for staying with us till the end of the conference. Thank you very much for all the speakers and participants joining us online and offline for sharing your thoughts and delivering presentations. And I'm going to share a story of Kapado Island before concluding the forum. There is an island called Marado, which is located in the southernmost part of the Korea. And next to that island, there is an island called Kapado. And about 10 years ago, Kapado welcomed less than 5,000 tourists a year. And residents left the island because of their children's education, which leave the island only with the senior citizens and older persons. But a local company decided to create and make the island the one that could attract the most tourists. So professors, NGO, media, and so many civil groups joined the campaign of that company, and they created a network called Kapado Lovers. So their goal was to preserve the environment and characteristics of the island. And that was the beginning of Kapado Island project to Green Island of Kapado. So far, Kapado has regarded the very hot sunlight and strong winds as kind of as not useful, but with that energy resources, renewable energy resources, it was able to become energy sufficient area. And thanks to the underground installation of electric poles, we were able to create a beautiful landscape. And the island had many diesel vehicles, but those vehicles were replaced with first generation EVs. That was a new challenge and back then that challenge was quite interesting and a bit curious, but that was a beginning point to change the province of Jeju into a carbon-free island. And that was a basis and foundation that has become the foundation and basis of carbon neutrality 2050, but no one imagined that could happen. So to turn Kapado Island into a green island, so many volunteers and people have been committed, and they established International Green Island Forum, and that network became a member of the IUCN. And also there are islands including Udo, Chujado, Biangdo, Kapado, where people live, also Marado. So with 5 residents in those islands, they created a network called Green Island Resident Consultative Body. And they also worked really hard to initiate the very first IEVE. As you know, biosphere reserve and biodiversity need global attention. And they are closely related to climate change as well. But carbon neutrality, depending on our willingness and commitment toward carbon neutrality, climate change have different impacts on us. That's why the world is committed to carbon neutrality and renewable energy transition and electrification of transportation. These two are key pillars of carbon neutrality. That is why during the IEVE, International Green Island Forum, and UNESCO are able to host this hybrid forum. The goal was to respond to climate change and protect biosphere reserves. In that regard, I believe today's forum is a very meaningful starting point, I'm sure. In closing, I hope inclusive and comprehensive cooperation could have been created, and coexistence of humanity and nature. I hope today's forum could make huge contributions as a tailwind for all of us. And once again, I'd like to thank all the participants joining us online and offline for staying with us till the end of the forum. And Director Yang Bo Kim, I'd like to send my special gratitude to you. And I hope once again, next year we will be able to meet together to talk about biosphere reserves and talk about how to protect the environment. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes today's seminar. I would like to invite everybody on the stage for a group photo and then share greetings with each other. Thank you.